Hi and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we look at all the latest viral fashions so you feel bad about yourself for being old and out of touch. But don't worry, we'll have all the products linked below so you can buy your way back into the youthful coolness you never had. Remember when things were better because you were young enough to feel joy? Maybe a $53.99 Amazon Prime order will make you feel that way again. First off the mark, you've probably seen this online. It's been on all my feeds, this viral colour-matching lip-plumping hair iron. It's just like the 90s. Second, the Gargle. This is the Gargle. Welcome to the Sonic Glossy magazine, to the Bugle's audio newspaper for a visual world. I am your host, Alice Fraser, and your guest editors for this week's edition of the magazine are Chloe Petts. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. And Steve Bugeja, how are you?
I'm great, thanks, Alice. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a delight to have you. Before we make the braided beads in each other's hair that are this week's top stories, let's have a look at the front cover of this week's magazine. On the front cover of the magazine this week is viral influencer and handsome maniac Jeremy Fragrance. Back in the news this week. The news, if you don't know Jeremy Fragrance, he was an influencer who discusses fragrance, and people fell out of love with him after a series of photos emerged of him chilling with some fascists. But he's back in the news now because he has put out a call for love. He's trying to find a girlfriend, specifically a girlfriend that looks exactly like a gender-swapped version of himself that he's constructed with an AI filter. So
good old Jeremy Fragrance.
Have either of you aware of Jeremy Fragrance, or have I just introduced you to the world of Jeremy Fragrance?
You've introduced me to it, but I'm very fascinated by how you can chill out with some Nazis. That feels like something you can't do very easily.
Hey, fascist, Steve, not Nazis.
Sorry.
Be careful with your language there.
But still, it feels like fascists aren't the easiest to chill with.
I mean, they're not known for their chill as a demographic genre. Like, they tend to be known for the wildly twitching eye and the sweaty upper lip.
Maybe that's why they needed the fragrance, because they want to sort of reform the image of the fascist, and they want to look. We want to bring nice smells to fascism. I mean,
everyone wants to smell good, whatever your political viewpoints.
It's true.
Yes,
That's the one thing that binds us all across all party divides is we just want to smell good.
Blood purity and aromatherapy is what we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a party.
I'm just interested in, is he aware? Is Jeremy Fragrance aware of the fact that he's just AI generated his opposite, or is he sort of ignorant to that fact and doesn't see the irony?
No, I think he's one of those people who believes that if you believe in something hard enough, it will manifest itself in the world, even if that thing is yourself, a girl version of yourself.
But does he know that it's a girl version of himself? Does he know that he wants to...
Oh yeah, he's made the girl version of himself.
But has he said, this is a girl version of myself, or he says, this is the woman that I want to sleep with, and everyone else has gone, it's just a mirror with long hair?
No, he's done it on purpose. He wants to Pygmalion reality.
Got ya.
He wants to manifest himself.
Horrible.
It's a terrible thing. Not enough to just get the same haircut as your partner. And the satirical cartoon this week is a doctor prescribing to a patient a tablet that says, "The news. Side effects may include madness, despair, and expressing your half-baked, quarter-formed, third-regurgitated opinion on social media." That's satire for you. Now it's time for our... Sometimes people are like, is your satirical cartoon like a satire about satirical cartoons? Or is it actually satire? And I say yes. That brings us to our top story this week. Top story this week is mass tourism protesters getting out there and squirting water at tourists in Barcelona. Chloe, you're a dab hand with a water gun. Can you unpack this story for us?
Yeah, so basically loads of tourism in Barcelona. You can kind of see why. Everything is terrible weather-wise elsewhere. So why wouldn't you want to go to Barcelona? But there's been such a sort of storm of people going there that I think people are sort of buying, second properties and then renting them out as Airbnbs. And then that's making the locals the prices are rocketing, and they're sort of taking it out on the tourists, squirting water guns at them. It's difficult for me to know what my opinion on this is, because I'm sort of I'm in two minds, where when you watch the videos, you see the people squirting the water guns and you think, you fucking arseholes. You sort of want to, fight water with water and kind of go back at them. But I think they've got a point. But maybe I would just like them to sort of protest the government rather than the people that are trying to have a nice food and a sandy beach.
I feel like water guns are an appropriate sort of Barcelona weapon, because everything there is melting anyway, or at least it looks like it's melting because of the Dali buildings.
Yeah, maybe it's like a nice treat. Maybe they're just like trying to cool the tourists. They're like, we do want you to go home, but also we want you to go home in comfort.
I actually think it could be counterproductive, because there are certain people who would actually quite like being squirted with water guns, would see that as a kind of almost masochistic experience. So actually they might end up attracting tourists to Barcelona because they're going to get squirted with water guns.
Steve, are you talking about yourself again?
It doesn't matter who I'm talking about. The point I'm making is that actually be careful what you wish for, Barcelona, because you might end up attracting maybe potentially worse tourists with this method.
Given that, when they last tried this, it was running tourists out of town by letting loose a stampede of bulls at them, and that's turned out to bring a lot of tourists back into town. Yep, I feel like this is a slippery slope, lubed up by the squirting of 1,000 water
literally
guns.
Very slippery, yeah. I think that it's kind of cute though, isn't it? Like, it's kind of nice because the water guns are quite small. They weren't using like the big super soakers. They were using like little. So I think, it's something quite sweet about it.
I mean, it's sweet or unambitious. I feel like if you are going to try and chase tourists out of town with a water gun, you want a super soaker 5,000 with piss in it.
With piss in it, yeah, perfect. But won't the police sort of like counter it with one of their big like anti-protest water guns? So that could be quite a sort of.
It's just a huge water fight.
Yeah, just a huge one that the police are ultimately going to win. But I think that could be what Barcelona needs. But everyone sort of in the video, everyone took it with quite good humour. Like there was no sort of real vitriol between the tourists and the protesters. I do just think like any time someone's saying go home, I'm a bit like, that's quite select language. That's sort of taken from the lexicon of old Jeremy Fragrance or whatever his name is.
He would be so offended to hear you calling him old. And that brings us to our ad section. Your ad section now, because you can't be what you can't buy. And are you a witch? Brew powerful potions with precision, whether concocting a healing elixir or crafting mystical spells. The purity of half a glass of water ensures your magic will flow flawlessly. Enhance your rituals and connect with ancient energies with half a glass of water. Terms and conditions apply. Use safety equipment. Do not apply topically, as it may melt you. Are you tired of mundane chores? Meet the Blastobot 4000, your ultimate solution for home security and cleanliness. Essentially, a Roomba with a hairdryer stapled on, it combines cutting-edge Russian military technology with everyday convenience. This powerhouse device is more than just a robot, it's your loyal guardian, beauty tool, and cleaning companion. Equipped with decommissioned Russian military centers and algorithm, the Blastobot 4000 detects intruders and frizz with pinpoint accuracy, blowing them both away. Rest easy knowing your home and your hairstyle are protected by state-of-the-art security. Need to deter unwanted pests or simply impress guests? The Blastobot 4000's detachable hairdryer doubles as a lethal and non-lethal deterrent, capable of emitting bursts of extremely effective substance, the ingredients of which have been heavily censored to keep criminals or door-knocking religionists at bay. Control and monitor the Blastobot 4000 from your smartphone with the intuitive mobile app. Schedule cleaning sessions, activate security protocols, or hunt your enemies across your extensive property with a twiddle of your thumbs. Transform your home into a fortress of cleanliness, security, and style. Embrace the future of home robotics and defense. The Blastobot 4000. And this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Taxes. Taxes, a monthly subscription service to public utilities so that tech bros will get behind the idea. Now it's time for your ants news. Ants news now. This is the news that ants are doctors. Dr. Ant was right. Steve, you've seen an ant before. Can you unpack this story for us?
Yeah, love ants. And I think this is exciting.
Was that, or Steve, you look like you can carry more than 40 times your own body weight? Those were the options.
And you looked at me and thought, no, that's just not believable. So the story is that Florida ants scientists have observed them performing surgery. It feels like a big term, but effectively performing healthcare on injured ants. So they'll do amputations, and they have antiseptic, like some sort of natural forming antiseptic in their glands, and it can cure other ailments. So they are only the second species.
Are they called amputations?
Yeah, very good.
I mean, the joke there is antiseptic, right? That's so funny, Alice, that you went for amputations when antiseptic was right there.
I sort of thought he had already done antiseptic, and then I realised that he hadn't realised it.
Completely unaware.
Draw attention to that.
I said the word antiseptic.
The original Jeremy fragrance.
But this is an exciting development, I think, that ants because the NHS is on its knees, and there are a lot of ants. So it might be the solution that Wes Streeting, the new health secretary, is actually. I mean, he won't see it coming, but actually, if we could employ a lot of ants to do some of to clear some of that backlog, even if they're not doing that good a job.
I was brought up on deeply unconvincing and adventure novels as a child, in which, problematically described native tribes would stake people out on an anthill as a form of torture. Maybe they were just admitting them to the local hospital.
Yeah, maybe they just had a sprained ankle.
Do you think there's scope for ants to do other stuff? Like a sort of just a general sort of GP appointment, like triage kind of. Like,
yeah.
I think
the new AI is ant infestation.
I think they're clever little guys, though, ants, aren't they? I've always had huge respect for them. They kind of toil away, and now we just thought they were sort of these kind of this hard-working proletariat, but actually, they're university educated. They've been through the system, and they're doctors.
I wonder whether it's like only some of them are the doctors. Have they actually created like a little mini society there where they've actually got ant doctors there, but they've got other roles that we just haven't spotted yet? Like there's lawyers in there, there's like teachers, there's unemployed ants that have to get retrained. There's maybe we're not watching them enough. Basically, they might have actually built a whole world.
Oh yeah, we need to witness the awkwardness when there's an ant aeroplane and someone calls out for an ant doctor, and someone steps forward and they're like, "Oh, sorry, I'm only an ant PhD."
Maybe
in philosophy.
Maybe the three of us could write a film called Ants, and it could all be about.
But fuck ants though. In the year of Bug's life, I really feel like it was just the worst of the two films. Right? Do you agree? Because
undoubtedly.
Some people have told me that they prefer ants, and I'm like, you're thick, you're stupid, you're an idiot. I know they put a Z at the end, and you might have been enthralled by that, but A Bug's Life is a far superior film.
Are you sure they weren't just saying they prefer ants as an animal, as a species, over the film Bug's Life? Because actually, it does sound like watching ants might be more entertaining.
Okay, what would you? Okay, Steve, here's a question for you. Would you rather watch 1 hour 40 of A Bug's Life or 1 hour 40 of an anthill?
Well, look, it depends if it's hospital day. Because if it's hospital day on the anthill, then I want to.
It's like ant casualty.
Yeah.
And that brings us to our reviews section. As you know, each week we ask our guest editors to bring in something to review out of 5 stars. Chloe, what have you brought in for us this week?
Okay, well, let me read you my review, which I have written down. Okay, so here's the review. I recently went to the London dungeons. There were warnings not to participate if heavily pregnant or under the age of 5, but unfortunately there was no warning not to take magic mushrooms. So my friend and I just assumed it was a prerequisite. So we were doing absolutely fine, pinging our nuts off as we passed from the Whitechapel Labyrinth to Mrs. Lovett's pie shop. It only became a problem when Jack the Ripper said to me, "Excuse me, are you Chloe Petts?" Now, I don't know if you've ever been on hallucinogenics and been recognised by a Victorian serial killer, but it does make you shit yourself quite hard. So I screamed, ran away and shouted, "I'm not your type, I'm not an East London sex worker," and had to recover at the Shrek Experience next door, where I was not recognised. 1 star for London Dungeons, 5 stars for Shrek.
Wow. I've got so many questions.
Ask them all. Ask them all, Steve.
How did the hallucinogenics affect the Shrek Experience? Because I feel like that would be weirder.
In all honesty, we just sat in the cafe. We were a bit sort of we were a bit sort of sick. We took the mushrooms like not in a pill or like a chocolate or anything. We just ate them, and it makes you really queasy. So when I said I shit myself, like it was partially literally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you gonna do it again? Or?
Yeah, I'd do it again for sure. I think any London landmark is improved by being on mushrooms.
Yeah.
London Eye.
Definite.
You're just in a box looking at stuff. Mushrooms is going to make that better.
Yeah. Yeah.
South Bank Centre. Ugh, boring. Who likes culture? Mushrooms, better.
Big Ben, even bigger.
The bong is even bongier.
the clock melts.
Yeah, the clock melts like Dali. That's the theme of the day.
Steve, what have you brought in for us to review today?
Mine is shorter and less drug related because we just lived very different lives actually. Mine is about porridge. Stodgy like cement, very little love went into making it, almost like the chef did not care. Served lukewarm, finished the whole thing, 5 stars. That was about my porridge this morning.
No one would have guessed that, Steve, unless you specified that was about your porridge this morning.
Well, the reason I specified it was because I've had complaints about my porridge recently. People who wouldn't give it 5 stars, for example, they maybe give it 1 star, and they've been saying it's too cement is the word they use, and it's unacceptably cold. And I just thought this is how people eat porridge, and I've been doing this forever, really, and it's only recently occurred to me that I like a very niche type of porridge.
Why is it cold?
It's cold because that's just a practical issue of when I cook it, I then take it off the hob and I tend to forget about it for a bit and then I serve it. So that's just a logistical issue. That's not actually a choice, but I don't mind it being a bit lukewarm.
Okay.
See, you would be my toddler daughter's perfect breakfast chef because she actively requests cold porridge and in fact refuses to eat hot fresh porridge that I've just made until I've cooled it down with ice.
Fantastic. And does she like it kind of in a goo, like a big pasty kind of?
Because she wants it now, but she wants it cold now.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
What do you have on the porridge?
I have peanut butter, blueberries and raspberries, but
wow, like a health blogger from the early 2000s.
Yeah, but I'm so far behind in my food nutrition. No, this is up to date for me. And I also have chia seeds. Is that out of date as well?
No, that's very up to date.
No.
Yeah,
that's what my daughter wants.
Oh, really? But I don't cook I just put the chia seeds on at the end, and apparently that's wrong as well because they don't burst. They're just some seeds on top of the porridge.
It's kind of gritty.
It's gritty. That's the right word. It's a gritty cement paste that I'm eating.
Yeah. Like a chia seed that's actualized itself is meant to be somewhat gelatinous, right?
Yeah, I honestly didn't know that.
An actualizing chia seed.
Yeah, apparently it's kind of slightly more soft in texture. Not the way I have it, though. No, thank you.
I like my porridge with some
I
crunch.
raw dog my chia seeds.
He crushes them up and snorts it.
And that brings us to our AI news of this week, which, unusually for the Gargle, is positive AI news. Possibly positive AI news, which is the news that they can do Karen white noise, essentially, an AI that aims to shield workers from angry callers on call centre calls. Steve, you've been an angry caller before. Can you unpack this story for us?
Yes. So SoftBank in Japan have been developing for 3 years an AI technology that will, I guess, be in their call centres that will effectively stop angry customers kind of being angry to their call centre workers. Like instantly. So the AI will instantly translate or change their voice and tone so that their call centres aren't subjected to such abuse and levels of anger, which is an incredible use of technology. What I would say is if a company is receiving such regular amounts of vitriol and anger from their customers, maybe the solution isn't to invent an AI that gets rid of that. It is to maybe improve their product. Because I feel like they've tried to solve the wrong problem.
Yeah, it's an incredible technology, essentially. In real time, it will translate your words to the same words, but slightly less pissed sounding.
The term they used was emotion cancelling, which, I mean, I could do with that sometimes.
Yeah, it's a much better version of noise cancelling. I feel like it's cool though, because I'm really into those videos online where it's always headline like motorcyclist diffuses road rage car driver with disarming charm, and I feel like it could be really useful because I feel like if the person shouting at you is still shouting at you, but if you're responding to them in the most calm way, then maybe it will just sort of naturally diffuse their anger, and eventually the AI won't have to be covering the anger.
Oh.
They'll just stop being angry, you know? Because the only thing worse than when you're feeling angry is when someone's really calm, because it means that they're not like meeting you at your level. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but it feels like this is the worst possible thing for me, because I always assume that everyone's angry with me all the time anyway, even when they're speaking in a calm tone of voice. And now I would just assume that they were being cancelled out by an AI.
Oh yeah, that's so true. I would get so paranoid as well. I'd be like, no, they hate me. I know they said such nice things, but it was fake.
You guys really need to work on your self-esteem, that you're taking a conversation that you'll have with someone one time.
Yeah, well, no, it's all right. I've just got a new therapist. It's this aunt who's offering therapy now, so I think it's going to really help.
Well, I feel like anything that can protect call centre workers from abuse is probably a good thing, but also what would be a good thing for call centre workers is not working in call centres. I think generally burn them all down. Send in Jeremy Fragrance with a scented Molotov cocktail.
And what instead of call centres? What do we like? Each company has like an individual complaints department rather than like these kind of centralised. Wait, hang on. Who would we speak to if we had a problem?
No one. You solve your problem yourself.
But what if my internet's not working? I don't know how to fix hyperoptic fibre.
Learn.
No, I mustn't.
Upskill, Chloe. Upskill.
Oh, I can't upskill. I turn off the internet for everyone by accident.
I mean, I feel like that would be a good accident.
Lots of broad sweeping statements today. Molotov cocktail call centres, internet off for everyone. That's our manifesto.
Yeah. Sit down, watch some ants. Touch grass.
I've just occurred to me, has this whole podcast been on an AI thing? Because I'm getting very negative energy from all of you. Is it?
Yeah, I've been calling you a massive twat for the last half an hour.
Oh, I think the AI is broken. Chloe just said she loves me. I don't know what's going on.
And that brings me to our final story of this week's episode of The Gargle. And this is the news which will come as a welcome clamour to all fans of Dancy Lagarde that romance bookstores are booming. This story is included in this week's Gargle to celebrate the fact that we are closing down the part of my book where you can get your name in the book. So if you go to unbound.com and look up the Dancy Lagarde book, now known as A Passion for Passion, you can still buy it, get the early bird purchasing thing where you get to have your name in the book. After that, you can still buy the book, but you can't be in the book. So before the 7th of August, go to unbound.com and look up A Passion for Passion, and then you can get your name in the book. Now, onto the story. This is the story that romance bookstores are booming and getting sexier and sexier, and that people are more and more comfortable with, for example, going in and asking essentially for literary pornography. Chloe, you've licked your fingers and turned some pages in your time. Can you unpack this story for us?
So, yeah, this is the story that there's been sort of a boom in romance novel. Well, it's not even sales, because I guess the through line of the New York Times article that this is in is that it's always been massively popular, but it's always just been a little bit frowned upon, reading romance books. And I think it's probably like rooted in the inception of romance novels, right? That it was always sort of like a thing that silly ladies did, that was a sort of frippery, that, you know, it's not high art, it's not high culture. So I guess one of the shameful things around it hasn't necessarily been the content of the books. It's been like, oh, am I reading trash is I guess the thing. But I think now we've sort of embraced this kind of blend of high-low culture within society. I think, go on. Sorry.
Historically speaking, high culture is where a woman suffers horribly and then dies as a punishment for having sex. And low culture is where a woman has orgasms with a sexy cowboy who shows up and solves all of her financial problems.
Yeah, whereas now we know that is high culture. And also for me, high culture is going to the London Dungeons on magic mushrooms. But I feel like, I feel like this is... I feel like it's really cool, and I feel like we're in this position of women truly sort of embracing chatting about their desires and chatting about sex, and I think that's incredibly powerful and incredibly cool.
Yeah, well, I think it's very scary for men to believe that they might be compared to, you know, dudes who actually care about women's orgasms. So I think that might be a reason why they've been historically squashed a bit. Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, as the most qualified person on this topic, I generally found it really interesting that they're opening specific shops for romance novels around New York, and it makes sense. Like, I'm surprised and frustrated that men aren't getting in on the romance novels. I think that's the next step, you know, because I don't think it should be exclusively women who are reading these romance novels. I actually think it could be the solution to a lot of male porn addiction. If we could just get men reading some nice smutty stuff, maybe they won't watch such awful things on the internet. I'm saying they, I mean we. But because there is literotica on the internet, and I've read some of it, and it's great stuff. Like, it's way more satisfying to read it. And I think men, maybe I'm going to be the leader of a movement to get men to read literotica.
I mean, I think that's a brilliant idea, Steve. I've always thought this about romance novels. Like, of course they're silly, but they're not like more silly than James Bond, you know? Which is a perfectly legitimate thing to say that you like in public. But not be embarrassed about.
It just goes back to that thing again of like what's valued and what's not, and like, you know, men with cars and guns is cool, and women being like, yeah, I want to hear about a fairy and a unicorn isn't cool. But actually, when you put it like that, it's the coolest thing you could possibly do.
Isn't it amazing when you're under pressure, the ideas that come out of your brain?
That wasn't one that was under pressure. That one's been going around my head for a long time, Steve.
He passionately adores her, but he is her guard captain and she's the princess, so he could never touch her, but he has to carry her on a horse across the border, and they touching each other on the horse, but in like a totally legitimate way, but then they both come and then they get married. The end.
Oh, come and marriage.
This is too much for me. I can't cope.
I mean, look, as a romance novel historian, I have to say, historically speaking, romance novels can kind of track movements in culture. So it used to be that you would do a lot of fingering before marriage, but you weren't allowed to bang before marriage. But now in romance novels, they almost always bang before marriage because that's how culture is.
That's really cool. Is it like... Is there something... Should we be worried about the fact, though, that, like Bridgerton is quite, like, a big thing at the moment? Like, women are sort of... Their sexual desires are going back towards times when they were a bit more conservative? Or is that just the lens through which we're seeing, like, modern... So everyone's kind of liberated within those stories, but it's just, like, in the context of, like, the Regency era or something?
Well, I mean, okay, look, I could talk about this all day, and in fact, I have written a book about it, but essentially, historical fiction acts as a kind of a metaphor so that we can have obstacles in the way of our protagonists, and then they can work out their emotional journeys around the structures of and strictures of their times.
So women aren't becoming more conservative sexually?
No.
Okay, good.
Other than trad wives.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's a different...
Oh, yeah. That is a wild movement.
Yeah, I'm a trad wife. I tan skins by hand using a rock.
And if
I eat all of my calories in summer and then starve through the winter. That's my...
If anyone's looking for a trad husband, then Steve and I are looking for trad wives. Hit us up. At Steve Bugeja, at Chloe Petts. Trap wives.
Yeah, although I can't do any of the kind of providing for thing financially. I'm struggling with that. But other than that, yeah, totally up for trad husband.
And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of The Gargle. I'm flipping through the ad section at the back. Steve, have you got anything to plug?
Yes, I will be at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival this August with my brand new show, Shiny, every day at 1:35pm. And it's all about achieving my dream and answering the question whether we should be trying to chase our dreams.
Chloe, what have you got to plug?
I am also going to the Edinburgh Fringe, 31st of July to the 25th of August. I'm on at 7pm at Pleasance Forth every day. Otherwise, you'll be able to see me holding hands with my friend Steve in the Pleasance Courtyard, having little drinkies and looking for our wives. And the other thing is that I have done a Radio 4 show called Toilet Humour, which basically is sort of like a irreverent and silly look at the history of toilets to try and understand how we've got to where we are now with these big cultural conversations around gender and who gets to go where.
Wonderful. Those are two shows at the Edinburgh Fringe which don't clash with each other, so stick them in your programme if you'll be in Edinburgh. I will not be in Edinburgh, but you can find me online at patreon.com/Alice Fraser. It's a one-stop shop for all of my stand-up specials, podcasts and blogs, as well as my weekly, actually twice weekly writers' meetings. If you want to write something, or you're writing something, or you've got something finished and want to workshop it, sign up at patreon.com/Alice Fraser. I'm also doing a workshop in Tokyo on October the 12th, and as a reminder, on the 7th of August, the bit where you get to be in my book named will close. So go to unbound.com and look up A Passion for Passion. This is a Bugle podcast and Alice Fraser production. Your editor is Ped Hunter. Your executive producer is Chris Skinner. I'll talk to you again next week.